Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Assalamualaikum, Jiayanu, Pachairagale, Ni Hao, Chunashumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, Halishumachatore, Ahlan Wasala, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Bhalli Kare Aya, Hosh Galden and I, Sayo, Huyamura, Chivato, Chihaljot, Kalimera, Khairatan, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and Watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Satti, I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us, but not just the day, the week as well. Hello Hajra, Assalamu Alaikum, how are you feeling today?
Walaikum Assalam, thank you so much Jazakallah Khair for introducing me. It's Monday morning here in Islamabad. It's a fine Monday morning and I would say temperature has somewhat risen, but nevertheless I think temperature is getting better and better and we are out of that monsoon season. We can feel that. But I was listening to a very interesting conversation when I was commuting from my house to my workplace, and it was a very large sort of a commute today, extra large, and that conversation hinted around the concept that how in the Western literature they have just excluded soul from the entire thing. So your body is the supreme being and you have to protect your body. So and in the pursuit of that you can have unlimited sets of desires, the unfettered desires. But if you look at the Islam has incorporated the concept of the soul into it, right? So you need to protect the soul because soul is a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and qalb or ruh is something that is very celestial in nature and it belongs to Allah and it hopes to return towards the Allah, and that is why we see there are lots of problems springing up in the pursuit of the unfettered desires. The concept of happiness have changed, the concept of economic desires have changed, all of these things have changed. We will further dissect this conversation and we will develop and delve into this topic, but I think Shahzad has something interesting to share.
Exactly, there's
and that
good
on
news.
A Monday morning in Islamabad.
Exactly, just like how the nation got together to celebrate Arshad Nadeem's victory and obviously breaking an Olympic record. I think this was something which the entire nation got together and cherished as well. So may it be the Honorable Prime Minister of the country, may it be the Chief Minister of Punjab, may it be the Sindh government or the KPK government, everybody came together and made sure that we're going to celebrate that. And I think celebrating such amazing victories is something which will make our youngsters influence or get the influence to do better. And such is an instance of these two amazing daughters of the soil, where I'm talking about Bano Bhatt and obviously Miss Iman, so they clinching gold medals for their respective categories. And not just that, I think it was for the very first time that we got to witness such MMA over here within the country, because Team Pakistan delivered a strong performance, Hajra, at the Asian MMA Championship 2024 held at the DHA Sports Complex in Lahore.
That's wonderful. With
Iman Khan and Bano Bhatt each clinching gold medals in their respective categories. The event coincided with the Brave Combat Federation's return with Brave CF 85. This highly anticipated event showcased top MMA fighters from Pakistan alongside internationally renowned athletes, highlighting the country's growing prominence in the sport. Bano Bhatt triumphed in the senior women's atomweight final, defeating Kazakhstan's Gulnaz to secure her gold. And Iman Khan also excelled, earning her gold by submitting Kazakhstan Danara with a rare naked choke in the first round. Wow.
And congratulations to these daughter of soil, as Shahzad very rightfully put it out there. You guys have made us really, really proud. And I think Pakistan has so many hidden treasures that we need to cherish. There are so unsung heroes out there in the field working really, really hard and making sure that they're not just prospering, but they're also making sure that adding good name to our country, beautiful country called Pakistan. But now let's dissect the conversation which I alluded to in the start, and which is what exactly does the economic growth means, because if we see in the modern paradigm, and that was dissected by a very highly renowned professor of Pakistan, we are really proud to say his name, Dr. Mahbubul Haq, in which he dissected this concept that the economic growth is not linked to GDP. If you have a really high number of GDP, that does not mean that people are doing really, really good, or it's the success or parameter of your progress or prosperity. So what exactly does a wholesome sort of an economic paradigm means, and how can we make sure that we look towards the unfettered communities, the underprivileged communities, the marginalized communities who are unable to tend to themselves? We are going to have a very broadsome discussion. We are very glad that we have been joined by Ms. Faryal Jahangir. She happens to be an economist. Assalamu alaikum, Ms. Faryal, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalamu alaikum ji, thank you so much for having me here.
And Jazakallah, it's an absolute pleasure having you on our show. So Ms. Faryal, let's delve into the discussion and the concept that Dr. Mahbubul Haq gave, and what do you think about it, and do you think that our state is going where Dr. Mahbubul Haq has pointed it out?
Okay, So basically, economic growth is more of has a narrow focus. So if a country is growing economically, it basically means that the output, the goods and the services, more of those are being produced. However, that solely does not reflect the overall well-being of the people. So if we want to focus on the well-being of the people or increasing the quality of life of the people, then the broader focus comes under economic development. So when we focus on economic development, that encompasses everything, not just economic growth.
So for example, what does it encompass?
So for example, we can talk about health sector or the education sector. So are the people getting a quality education? Are people getting health facilities, quality health facilities, job creation, wealth creation, all of that comes under.
I'm sorry, but I'll have to bring this up. I'm very sorry, Hajar. Now imagine that, you know, for everybody who's out there, I think we really need to do justice with the kind of work that we do. So these days, you know, we actually have to put solars on our houses, to produce electricity. Then we obviously need to, you know, kind of make sure that we go underground and get clean drinking water. We have to send our children to private schools for education. You know, for healthcare, we have to go to private hospitals, unfortunately. Do you think that all of these factors kind of tell us that, you know, in terms of economic development or economic growth, we're in the right direction? And we have to even secure our streets by ourselves.
Yes, that's true. So basically, the thing is that, you know, you have to focus, all this encompasses, there's policy behind this. So policies are needed. So there are resources, and it depends on us, where are we allocating our resources?
All right.
Whether we are allocating our resources on education or not, whether we are spending on the health sector or not. So that is basically prioritization for any country.
And what I'm trying to say over here is obviously belongs to one segment of the society only. You know, it's the middle class that we belong to. You know, people, you know, are going to, even I at some point of time went to public schools as well, and they did a great job. I'm here. I ended up being an anchor person. So there's no, you know, there's no harm in saying that, you know, the public school institutions, you know, wherever they are, they kind of contribute. For all of those people who went to the Tartwala schools, you know, like my father and everybody ended up being bureaucrats, right?
Yes, but the times have really changed, and the inequalities have increased a lot. And the standard of public schools in those days was much higher than what we have now, unfortunately. And that's a perception, at least. And then there's this elite education, and then there's the education for the middle class. So the inequalities, at least the children, they deserve equal opportunities, you know, and that's where economic development comes in, that, you know, you provide the basic opportunities to the masses, and at least from 0 to 16, they should be getting equal opportunity. So at least there should be some form of curriculum that benefits everyone. And we have so much technology now, you know, even at because it's such a, we have like mountainous terrain, and we have deserts, and I mean, it's really hard to reach those children in those places. And to provide quality education in those areas, then that's where the role of economic development emerges. And when I was talking about policy, what I meant was that, because I myself, I've studied from London School of Economics, and over there what I learned that the education is very heavily focused on research, and the research, basically even the professors, all the academicians, they are really heavily invested in producing research. So the main role of universities abroad is producing research, and that's how they train their students as well. But unfortunately, and that research informs the policy makers. So that's where those academicians, they actually go to the parliament, and they sit there, and they're actually called by the parliamentarians and by the policy makers to sort of inform them what policy should be made regarding health or education, or whatever the pressing issues are. So what I feel that over here we need to invest, and that's where the investment comes in. We need to invest in research at the university level. Right now, unfortunately, in Pakistan, most of the research is being done by private firms, companies, or you know, consultancies. So it's more, it's not that much there for the academicians and the students.
Right. Ms. Faryal, so you've mentioned a very important and interesting aspect in your conversation. I would like to probe that concept. And you talked about the well-being of the people and how it's linked to the economic growth or the economics of the country. But if we dissect this concept and if we look at the Western models, and obviously we know that that's a more the paradigm that is being followed everywhere around the world. But if you look at the well-being of the people, you will find this mental illnesses, they are across the world on the rise, right? So if they are materialistically so satisfied, economic growth, they have really high GDPs, whenever there is any reports of the happiest countries, you would see that's very Eurocentric, Norway tops the list, or Finland tops the list, or this country, that country, right? Usually it's the Scandinavian countries that are located in the Europe, right? So if the well-being is linked to the economic growth, so how do we explain this, right? If people are doing so great, if they're materialistically so satisfied, their GDP is doing such a wonderful job, why are there people not satisfied? Why are they facing so many crises in the health?
Yeah, so there could be multiple factors, and psychologists, psychiatrists could better shed light on this. But just recently, I was reading that mental illnesses, they are just like any other illness, like a physical illness. If somebody has diabetes or blood pressure, it's just like that. But in our society, we don't really accept it that way. We say, oh, you need to just get active.
Yeah,
and, you just need to change your lifestyle, and just don't focus on. But it's actually an illness. Sometimes it is just circumstantial, some hard times coming in, but other than that,
yes, what I wanted to say is that this entire paradigm has shown us that economic development does not matter in terms of the materialistic development, right? You need to have a wholesome discussion on the economic growth. And so since your research topic includes the local economic development, that's a very interesting conversation or concept, because a lot of people are exploring local wisdom, the indigenous knowledge. So what exactly local economic development means, and what are some of the new trends that you would like to share with us?
So basically, local economic development focuses on different aspects. So the top-down policies as well as the bottom-up. So if you talk about top-down, so how do we create wealth, or how do we provide job opportunities? So for example, for a district which is a lagging district, so okay, we are in Islamabad, or if we are in Peshawar, Lahore, Quetta, okay, those are main cities, and people have more access to electricity, or schools or roads. But how about the places that are really lagging behind? How do we sort of bring them up or raise their standard of living? So then, and even in cities, of course, we have a lot of challenges. I'm not saying they're not there, but then we tackle them two ways, top down and bottom up. So the policies at the national level or the provincial level, how will they affect? How will we be bringing in investment and creating job opportunities for them? And then what are the local problems? So every area has specific, culture or cultural issues, or there are barriers to education.
Thank you so much for saying that, because there's a reason. Now imagine that I have been an active member in the local politics as well, so I do know how things work out at the grassroots level. Now imagine for every member provincial assembly, they will go back to their union councils and whatnot, and they will always make sure. So now what they do is that if they are being elected by their people, now what they'll do is that wherever their opposition lies, there's no work will be done over there in those areas, number one. Number two, now the local politics is such that, that unfortunately they won't even think about favoring the people of the opposition, and it's always about tusi kinu vote paye, how Punjab works. Now, how do you think that in such dire needs, where we do need education, we do need healthcare and all of these facilities, people are only inclined towards their own vote bank rather than thinking about the problems that other people might have from the opposition parties?
Yes, no, that's very unfortunate. But I think the one way that this can be tackled is that what are the policies that are being made for provincially or locally. So there are many things that are now devolved to the provinces. So what policies are being made there? What is the budget expenditure on different things? So even if the loyalties are there of different political parties or associations, but what is the government spending on? So that's where we connect that with research. That's sort of a gap
and that's where the question rises. Now, because you said that that the local governments really need to attract investment towards their provinces or halkas or constituency as well. Now, how does that work? If we are to kind of back it up with research, how do you think that it has helped Pakistan in different provinces?
Okay, so there is this this concept in research. It's called related variety, and it was given by Professor Ron Boschma. And that basically, that concept, they have studied all the European areas that were really lagging behind, and you know, all this EU has sort of brought all the countries up, and now this like a union. And how did that all happen? It was not there 100 years ago.
The same currency, yeah.
Yes. Yes, and then opening trade, which is we'll come to that as well. So basically, their research shows that, you know, when a region diversifies its products or services in the area that they're already experienced in or they're good at, and when they diversify in those specific areas, that's how economic development actually takes place. So, for example, in Netherlands, it's still an agricultural country, but then they had a lot of production of flowers, and they converted that flower production into sophisticated goods, products, like other products like perfumes and other things. So basically, if we have an area and it produces a certain crop like rice or cotton, and you could basically diversify that into your textile sector. It could be anything of it. It could be something very small as well. But you know, you have like there's a intergenerational sort of knowledge that is being passed down in many areas. For example, Faisalabad.
But we've been sticking to that. We've been sticking to that intergenerational you know, experiences which have been passed down to us, and it is
upgraded. That's the missing.
But Ms. Fayal, when we talk about the European Union, certainly it's a collection of different nations together, right, or different countries together, as I would like to say, and it's a very Eurocentric model, right? So in South Asia, we do see that there is a SARC here, but we do see that how dysfunctional that gathering of the nation is, right? There's so many bickering going on, politics going on, and does not allow the free trade or the open borders like you were mentioning, right? So when we talk about the local economic development, I think that's a very interesting idea to explore, because if you look how the modern cities are based, right, you will see that there's an elite class, there's a very flashy sort of skyscrapers, there's malls across the cities, but then there's another class within that city which is not included in that economic growth model, right? The vendors, the hawkers, and I think they're very invisible in the GDP and economic growth. How can we also make them a part of the economic development and make the economic development more inclusive that also caters to those underprivileged? Do you have any case studies in the mind that you would like to discuss?
So basically what research has shown, has sort of proven that how did these countries, the Western countries, how did they basically develop themselves, was basically the 1930s, the Great Depression of the 1930s, and the West had, the entire world was stuck in World War I, then there was World War II, and then there were protectionist policies due to which they were not, these countries were basically protecting their own goods and services, and they were not letting other countries' goods and services come in. And that's when the 1930s, the Great Depression occurred, and the whole global economy sort of collapsed, and there are multiple reasons to that, but one of the reasons was these protectionist policies. So slowly the borders started to open, and the countries started to let other countries' products come in. And the fact of the matter is, all the research shows that when your protectionist policies go down, and when you open your borders, you let you reduce the tariffs, you let other countries things come in, and then they allow your things too. But when you let other countries things come in, a sort of something miraculous happens, and you know, all the prices, inflation, everything sort of slowly it adjusts itself, and the country specializes in what it's best at as a result. So you don't try to produce what you are inefficient at, you rather let those things come in. And especially I would like to mention this, that malnutrition in Pakistan. So for example, Iran has food items that are much cheaper than our prices here, and we could actually at least let cheaper food products come in to tackle the malnutrition and the stunting.
But then how are
I mean, why are we not doing that? And many people would be offended because we call that smuggling, but it's, how can it be smuggling if your children are dying?
How are you going to let your own industries then survive or give them the essential oxygen needed to create that economic growth, right? Their cheaper products means that our industry is going to
then our industry gets to produce better things, right?
Yes, because then we will specialize in what we are good at. So if we are making those products which are causing inflation as a result, just to hire a few people who are working on those sectors, as a result of opening up your borders, you actually, the countries specialize in what they are best at, and they let the other products just come in and services come in, which are cheaper, and it improves the lives of the people of the country.
And we are best at mangoes, we are best at cotton, we are best at sugarcane, we are best at rice, we are best at oranges, we are best at bananas, footballs, there's so much stuff as well.
Surgical.
But in addition to this, just very quickly towards the end, you know, I had a couple of other questions, but I'm sorry that we, you know, because of the paucity of the time, that's how Hajra would love to state it. One last question, that is, how do you think, because we do know for a fact that global population of women is more, and number one, you know, so let me just, you know, kind of say it, because we have spoken about the Great Depression, 1930, World War I, World War II, and how European countries kind of sat down together and said, hey, you know what, we need to open our borders and everything will come to it. And that's what we see today as well. And where we talk about top economies, or the, you know, the livelihood of the people is better, I think it always goes to the Scandinavian or the European countries. But now coming back to how women can play their role in economic growth and economic development.
So women are like, you know, if we keep women out of the economy, you're keeping more than half of the country out of the economy. And we basically, what we're missing here is that the participation rate of women in the economy in Pakistan is still quite low. And, you know, women need the support system. So once the women here in Pakistan, they get married, they have children, what we lack is we don't have formal childcare system. And we see so many doctors, engineers, so many highly skilled ladies, they're dropping out of the workforce after having kids, because we don't have the 0 to 5 sort of childcare there, which is there in the West. And we need formal trainings for that. We need to sit down and sort of develop a policy for that. We have informal care. We have like nannies and daddies taking care of the kids. But how about the formal one? What about those women who don't have that?
And it's an industry itself as well.
Yes.
Exactly.
And the women, you know, once the women fully sort of participate, and you know, so many women are educated, they have the skills, but they're still not there as much as their presence should be.
And I think
they
a
need
lot
support.
And thank you so much for saying that. And I think a lot of women, they are actually participating in the economic growth, but their labor is very invisible. So like a lot of women, they are sowing the crops out there, they're doing most of the work in the agriculture sector, but it's invisible. And not just that, they're also rearing their kids, you know, they are looking after their husband.
Women are doing the highest unpaid housework in the world.
It's unpaid labor, it's unpaid labor, it's invisible labor, it does not reflect in the GDP. So I think it's high time that we include them into the inclusive economic growth. So we have lots of questions to ask, but unfortunately, because of the shortage of time,
the research needs to be there.
Yeah, we would like to have this debate some other day, but thank you so much, Ms. Faryal, for coming to our show, for having this wonderful conversation. We're going on a short break, and after we come back, we have an interesting discussion lined up. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were having this wonderful discussion centered around the economic growth of the country. And when we speak about the economic growth of our country, no one can deny the beauty, the landscaping of the Pakistan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed up. From the mountains to the deserts, we have everything. And it's not just the landscaping, the soil beneath that layers, the minerals beneath that layers has blessed us with a lot. But how to utilize all of those minerals? And when we talk about the geology of it, when we talk about the conversation surrounding the oil and gas exploration and all of these things that makes us very beautiful, how can we do that? So we have someone in the studio who is going to dissect this topic about oil and gas exploration. Not just that, what is the alternative for that, because now world and the global elite are thinking in the light of the climate change, how to make or transition for the renewable resources which are going to put less pressure on the earth resources, because we have seen what sort of impacts this climate change has produced. So without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be Professor Adil Nasir. He is a geologist, and he's going to talk about the role of All Pakistan Geoscientist Association. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wonderful to have you, Professor Saab. You know, it's an honor to have you over here inside the studios and that to talk about geology. I believe it's for the very first time that we are having such conversation. Earlier in the first segment, we were talking about economic development as well. Right. So how important it is for any country's economic development to dwell on its resources available naturally?
By the blessing of Allah, the geographic location of Pakistan
social studies
is very attractive.
Yes.
Because we have mountains, we have different seasons in Pakistan, and Pakistan is a locality where we have 4 seasons. So this is the blessing of Allah. But we need to utilize the resources of our best capacity. We have a great geoscientist, we have a great engineers in the Pakistan who can do work for the Pakistan, who can do work for the energy crisis, for the climate change. So we have all resources inside the Pakistan, but the fact of the figure and the problem is that we are habitual to misuse the resources.
Okay.
So this is the problem in the Pakistan.
All right.
So when we
but where are the resources? We really, to misuse any resource, we need to have resources we have established on, right?
Yeah, we have natural resources in Pakistan. We have good minerals, high quality, high grade minerals inside the Pakistan. We have oil and gas exploration techniques. We have good productive reservoirs in the Pakistan. So we have all natural resources, but we need to explore these resources in order to utilize the best capacity and capability of the people and the institutions especially.
And Professor Sab, so we've seen, yes, Pakistan is blessed with a lot of beautiful resources and they're very rich in the resources. So how strong is the government grip on this particular sector in terms of the regulation? So if you are moving towards the Aptabad, so you will encounter Haripur and all of these areas, and they had a really amazing sort of the mountainous landscape. But now if you see that mountains have been reduced to hills, and I think in a decade or so, those hills will vanish because they have so many marble or I don't know what sort of a material in that, right? But how does that impact the environment, number one, when we talk about it? And again, the corporate greed is too strong to stop it, right? So how to regulate it, that is for the economic benefit of the country. And secondly, how to regulate it in a more disciplined and structured sort of a way.
You have talked about the area. Yesterday I have visited Mansehra and all surrounding areas for hiking purpose. So first of all, the role of government is very important. Ministry of Energy is responsible for explore and to produce the reserves of hydrocarbons as well as the mineral resources as well as the gold resources. We have different resources near about the Gilgit in Hunza. We have lot of gold resources. And we have in lower Pakistan is divided into the 3 major zones: Upper Indus Basin, Middle Indus Basin, and Lower Indus Basin. Each Indus Basin have the natural resources in term of the oil and gas, as well as we have minerals. We have huge resources of salt. So the role of ministry should be they encourage the multinational companies. They come over here to explore and to produce the hydrocarbon reserves.
But they're often in the controversy, as we have seen in the Balochistan, right? So there was such a huge controversy because multinational corporation has sued the state of Pakistan for that. How to resolve those matters?
Before 7 years, I was working in Ministry of Energy in 2013. At that time, we have 56 exploration blocks in Pakistan for bidding. But right now, they are still stuck due to the political instability.
Exactly. And in addition to this, very sorry, I'm very sorry that I'm bringing this up, but we really need to kind of speak about it. Where we're talking about exploration, where we're talking about how Pakistan is so rich with, such minerals. I think what we really need to kind of talk about, because this is every household problem. Now, we do have a lot of property to ourselves, but we might not have enough cash to kind of build up on it. Now, imagine that we need to take example from Saudi Arab. Imagine, because just very recently, I was lucky enough to visit the Aramco oil rigs plants as well, where people come from all nationalities to work for them. And then, somebody told me, I don't know, whether it's correct 100% or not, that, when the bidders came in, they said that we wanted the ownership. The Saudis, alhamdulillah, were so intelligent that they said, hey, you know what, you are not going to get the, ownership, but, what we're going to do is that we are going to trade in with riyal and not even with dollars. Now, imagine that's how they actually build up on it. So we always want some other people to come in, invest some money to get our resources out of the country, right?
It's basically the role of government. They must encourage the multinational companies. they must encourage the people who are working in oil and gas sector, exploration sector. For example, multinational companies are working in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Iraq, because they are the most oil prone countries, gas prone countries. Now, I want to compare this scenario with the Pakistan. In Iran Iran borderline, we have a lot of gas resources as well as oil resources, but the fact of the matter is that we have a political instability, we have a security issues over there. So many times Chinese companies came over here, but they need security, but they have security problems. Their technical people fired by some militants. So this is a major issue in the Pakistan, especially in the Balochistan, in the Iran pipeline. So we need to resolve that issues, and this is the responsibility of the government of Pakistan. And recently in Karak block, we have explored Pakistan, our international company, MOL has explored lot of reserves, but still, you know, there is an operation, I don't know the name of operation, of the Pakistani army. So this is the problem when we hire some multinational companies, they need such, they have such issues.
We certainly need to kind of address the security issues to kind of move on.
Right,
and Pakistan Army is great at it. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, in coming days, we'll definitely see.
And no one can deny that economic growth is very much linked to the security situation of any country, right? Not just Pakistan. So, Professor Saab, now let's delve into the conversation where world is thinking of moving beyond the this oil and gas resources, right? Because we have seen the heavy toll it produces on the environment, right? And in the World Economic Forums, we've seen that there were discussions. Number one, do you think that we also need to have these discussions where we're talking about transition away from the oil and gas towards the renewable energy resources? And if we are talking about that, if we are adding climate change into the conversation, what sort of conversations as a professor, as someone who's working on the new research trends, do you think we need to have? Do you feel that there is a substitute available for the oil and gas? Yes, there are solar energy, yes, there are electrical vehicle, but I mean the impact it is creating on the environment is also very great, right? So you can't really say it's a substitute because impact is almost same or not same, the greater than that. So where do you think we need to transition?
World is right now converting into the renewable energy because with the usage of oil and gas, we have climate change issues, and climate change is one of the huge problem of overall in the world. Because you know that the weather pattern is changing day by day. Not in the typical in the Pakistani location as well as with the other countries. So we need to mitigate the consequences of oil and gas because they produce lot of pollution inside the air. So we need to convert into the renewable energy. We have a solar energy. We can produce energy through winds. Typically in the weather side, we can produce lot of energy from the wind. So we need to convert into the renewable energy resources.
Exactly. And we're trying to do that, right? Now, unfortunately, I'm sorry that I keep on bringing up such news as well. Now, imagine that that WAPDA is supposed to give you green meters, right? So I've installed the solar panels and everything. It's like almost 1 month. I haven't been, able to get my hands on the green meter as well. So I think such efficiency really needs to be out there for people to work on it.
Yeah, my personal experience is that people are going to install the solar day by day. And sometimes the corruption rate in the Pakistan is so high. Now they are introducing multiple types of meters just to get money from the public. But so this is a very cheap way, I must say.
And I think that's how we see that there is some leakages in the system, in the structure, because these things should be encouraged, right? Because number one, they're environment friendly, they're also very pocket friendly, and they are, I think, substitute this inflation and rising trends. But sir, now let's also shed light on the role of the Geological Association that you're working in.
APG,
what exactly are the objectives, and what are some of the new research trends that you guys are working on in this organization?
The purpose of this organization is to bridge the gap between the industry and the academia, because the syllabus which we are
teaching, it's a think tank, right?
Because the syllabus which we are teaching in the academia, they are not 100% linked with the industry practices. So this is the main problem. So this is the objective of the association, that we need to bridge a strong gap between industry and academia. So we are working on 5 diverse disciplines. The one is geosciences, and the other one is climate change, and the third one is sustainability, sustainable development, fourth one is management sciences, and the fifth one is international relations. We are going to conduct diverse conferences, workshops on that specific issues as well as in our specific departments. So we have different think tanks. They are the people having expertise on the climate change, on the energy sector, on the sustainable development.
And it will certainly raise a lot of awareness as well. But thank you so much, Professor Adil Naseer, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And thank you so much for bringing forward the role of APGA. And I think that's what we certainly do require. But ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, towards the end, we certainly make sure that we wish birthdays wherever they are happening. So happy birthday to everybody. You know, first of all, you know who's actually celebrating. Well, one of our very special, amazing little angel is celebrating her birthday. Her name is Hania Sayed. Hania, congratulations to you. A very, very, very happy Hajj day to you. And may you have many more birthdays. You know, please make sure that, you know, as you grow up every single year, that you become the reason of the happiness of all of those people who surround you. So Hania Sayed, please make sure that you celebrate at your fullest. And yes, let's sing her a song.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Hania. Happy birthday to you.
May you have many more, and may you be able to contribute immensely to our country, Pakistan, and may you be source of pride to your parents, right? So with that, we are bidding you farewell. Until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.